So I think we are live. Hello, everyone. My apologies for our delay. I'm having some computer troubles. So if we happen to disappear, just know that we will be right back on. I keep getting something's going on with my computer, but we have cleared out that energy, set the intention for everything to just go perfectly. So I'm going to find our video here. And we're live. Welcome. So quite a few of you guys are jumping on already. Welcome. Let us know that you're here. And I'm going to be keeping an eye on the comments. So if you have any questions along the way, just go ahead and ask in the comments. And I will be presenting those to Pamela as we go. She can't see the Facebook thread. So that said, you guys, I'm so excited to welcome Pamela Strum and to introduce her to you guys if you don't know her, and introduce this amazing modality. We've been kind of going back and forth about the word modality, because honestly, this is bigger than a modality, but there's not really a word in existence. So we settled on the word, or Pamela settled on the word modality. I have been so honored to be holding space for and witnessing this birth of this amazing energy, golden ratio interdimensional light healing, or grid light healing, for the past several months. And Pamela has been creating and receiving this energy for many years, but really been working intentionally and consciously on it for about the last 6 months. And this is truly, and I can say this I don't say this very often, this is truly one of the highest level energies that I have ever had the privilege to witness and to receive, because I've received a series of healings from Pamela using this energy in my life. And so I'm really excited. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to bring Pamela on so she can introduce that to you guys today. So with that said, welcome everyone, and thank you, Pamela.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you. And so I literally refer to Alicia as my midwife because it had felt like a birthing. So even my family members know, I guess, oh, my midwife. And it's been an incredible journey with you. So thank you so much. And really thank you, all of you, for being here today. So it's so exciting. This is my first time I'm really bringing it out and talking about it at large to people other than Alicia. So I'm really very excited to have all of you here with us today.
Yes. So we have, I have some questions that I'm going to ask you. And if you guys have questions, just chime in. Quite a few of you are on here. So this has been coming in for you for a long time. And you've told me some stories of the past, pretty far back in the past. Can you tell us about the early signs that you received and some of the things that have happened that you now realize this energy coming in?
Sure. So it's as if my life lately has been rushing at me, or the experiences from my past have been rushing toward me to make sense out of all this. But there are two, I think, really standout moments from the past before I even realized what was going on. And one of them happened, I guess, maybe just about 2 decades ago. And I was in school and because coming up with answering how does acupuncture work in a biophysics class. And I don't know, we had to be articulate on this subject because really there's no known, I'm a licensed acupuncturist. And what came to me at that time, and it felt like a download, was grid lines of the formation of a fetus, and how acupuncture, the certain ancient channels referenced back in the oldest books of acupuncture, formed a fetus. And I presented this to the class. It was stand up. And afterwards, my teacher pulled me over, and what I interpreted as his being angry at the time, he was really challenging me on how can you possibly say this? And I said, well, it's just sort of what makes sense to me. Well, how can you prove this? And I was like, well, I can't prove it. I need a team of scientists to prove this, and engineers. I really don't know how to say this, but it's just how a fetus forms in the mother's body. And really trying to get him to back off. So like this is my hypothesis. And he said to me, well, before he came to this country from Taiwan, leaving Taiwan, this was indeed what he was working on with a team of scientists trying to prove exactly what I was saying. So this was exciting for me. And I knew that there was something about this. And it sort of pulled forward it has pulled forward into this healing modality. But fast forward, going 2 years ago in November, so maybe November 2016. And through a series of events in life, how life kind of spirals you in a certain direction, I was talking to someone who did a lot of past life regressions. And I said to her, well, that's fine, but really, what about a life progression? Mm-hmm. And she said, oh, yes, I do that. But only one other person has ever asked me to do that. And I told her, I said, well, that's really what I'd like to do, is a life progression. And what happened during the progression, I saw something that was phenomenal healing. And it was huge. And it was something that I didn't recognize what it was. So after the session, when we were processing together, and it came to me very much as light energy, and it was absolutely specific to how it felt and what was going on. So after the session, I said to her, this, in some lifetime of mine in the future, this is what I saw. Except during the life progression, my children were in the progression. I have 2 children and I have a stepdaughter, but my biological children were in the progression, and very specific. They were featured specifically, as well as my current treatment room. So I treat people. I have a patient and client base already. And I was in my treatment room, and the way the energy streamed in and the way I received the energy before starting to work on people. And so this woman pointed out to me, Pamela, you're saying another life, but why not this lifetime? And it really blew me away, because this was huge. It was, I didn't have a reference point for it. But literally the month after this happened, it was as if, once again, my life came running at me. And in earnest, I've always been a little bit of an energy junkie. So I love energy practices. I love hearing what everyone else is doing and what people are saying. And I paid close attention. But afterwards, a month later, I started in earnest working with mentors again and studying modalities and really paying attention to up my game so that I could even understand that experience. And the result of all that is this grid light healing modality. So golden ratio, interdimensional light healing. And even the name of it was downloaded for specific reasons. And Alicia, I saw you working with me by my side. So before I even became a sacred soul alignment practitioner, I knew that you were going to be by my side during this process. So
that was really amazing when you shared that with me. Incredible. And this whole thing is incredible. So sacred geometry is a big part of this modality. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yes. So what ends up happening in this healing modality is, along with what I described with the acupuncture and our formation lines, sacred geometry comes in, and it's as if there is an unraveling of our human form all the way through our more subtle and energetic bodies. And this is, this blew me away. So with sacred geometry, very specific shapes came through and forms came through. And in this process, there is an unwinding of the person, the client, if you will. And I've even done this to myself. And sort of understanding how we're formed. So sacred geometry, I have a toy I want to share with you.
Yes, this is such a good visual.
I know. To kind of land this, but sacred geometry is not my term for those of you who aren't familiar with sacred geometry. You'll hear a lot of architects talk about sacred geometry, but also sacred geometry in nature. And so I want to show you my toy, and then it's actually my children's toy. But the way I've been searching how to help this really anchor for people, my son was playing with this after a recent trip to Barcelona, where Gaudí, the Sagrada Familia, and other architectural structures that he built, where he used a lot of sacred geometry motivated by nature. So it's very much how the third dimensional world is developed. But in this healing modality, in the grid light healing, it's very much how we've been created. And it helps me work on people. So let me get the toy. Are you ready? Have any of you seen this? And I put one of my kids' dolls in it. Isn't that hysterical? Because this is one of the shapes. So as I started to work on people, and the shapes more shapes came through, or I recognized even what had been coming through to me and to what was pulling in for this healing modality. This toroidal shape is one of the shapes. And this is sort of how grid, the golden ratio, because as I'm working on someone and they're in this shape changes into other sacred geometry shapes. So there's the person, they kind of are falling out, but let me take the other one. So the sacred geometry shapes shift and go through different formations, such as the flower of life, and even through the eye. And it's how I channel energy in. It's how the healing happens, where stuck energy or lower frequency energies really easily get cleared out. And from there, higher dimensional energies are brought in, and then things are rewound and reformulated so that when the healing is complete, this even expands out even more into, and allows the person to experience sort of the higher dimensional, reaching out into the higher dimensional frequencies. And it came through as sacred geometry.
I love the visual of that. Of that toy that really, I've disappeared for a second because my computer did its thing. Hopefully I'll be able to stay on long enough to share my experience of everything that I've experienced in this healing. So I didn't hear all of what you said because I disappeared for a second, but you talked about, did you talk about the pushing that shape together and forming that portal and all of that?
Yeah, well, what ends up happening with this, I want to just, mention, and, if I'm saying too much but just, stick with me a moment. So it's as if our fields, and some people have heard talk about, Akashic fields, galactic fields, and it's really one field. It's sort of like our reach. And what happens are the grid lines blend together. I experience us, or the individual, or our formation, very much as a grid. What do I mean by that? Sometimes people talk about the Matrix, and I avoid that because of the movie,
Right.
but the tapestries, and this holds who we are and who we've been, even within our ancestral line. And I don't mean to jump ahead very much, Alicia. I know that I'd like you to share maybe some things that you've experienced, but it allows me to kind of, during the healing process, blend the grid lines and very easily through sacred geometry, access the person, who they've been, their energy system throughout timelines, their ancestral line. So it works through your ancestral line, going forwards and backwards. And energy is absolutely easily released and channeled in and upgraded. So one of the things that, if I can share something of working on someone in maybe the earlier form of this healing, was someone who, a client of mine who had unexpected open heart surgery with complications. And I asked permission to go in during the time of their surgery and work on them. And that was a unique experience. I've put myself in positions of having really interesting cases before, and it wasn't the first time working on someone who was having surgery. But in this particular situation, I was sort of hanging out with the person and doing the healing modality, working with the sacred geometry at this point, and said to them, because they were at that in-between state, I was really easily able to access their higher self, and said, okay, you're going back into your body now, right? Time to go back in. And this has been incredible. And literally, I spoke to them the day after their surgery, and they were going to be released the next day. And I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? This is someone in their 50s. Like, are you sure? Like, why, how could they release you? And they said, well, the doctors are saying it's kind of like a miracle. I'm healing really quickly. And then 2 weeks after their surgery, they were back at work full time. And once again, I said to this client, don't you think you should rest longer? Are you sure you want to go back to work already? And they said, I feel great. The doctors are saying I'm like a miracle. I'm healing so fast. Between following all of their instructions and the healing work you did. And I'd like to think, that the healing had something to do with it. Mm-hmm. And indeed, it's deep work. So
very deep work. So I'd like to share a couple of my experiences. So you have worked on me, I think about maybe 4 or 5 times. And the first time you worked on me, literally within 2 days. So I have been, a lot of you guys might know, I have been working on manifesting or co-creating something in my life that was really, really important to me. And that is calling in my beloved. And I've been working on this really strongly for a year. I've done a lot of things, and I could feel this in my field. I kept thinking, he's here. He's here. I just can't, where is he? He's here. I can feel him. And literally within 2 days after you doing the first session with me, it was as if the veil lifted. Now we hear that term a lot, the veil is lifting and this lifts the veil, but what does that actually really mean? What that actually means is that we can see what is already there. And I had a whole new awareness of who was already in my field, who had already been there for months. And he's probably watching right now, but I had that awareness of actually how I actually really felt about him in my heart and who he was. And the veil was really, really lifted. And my life has very dramatically changed since then. And it's only been a couple of months. So that was really profound for me. And one of the things that I realized about this work is that it's about your work is that it did lift the veil and allow me to see what was already there in a whole new way. But it already, he is watching because he just commented. But the other thing that I had the awareness of is that so many of us are doing deep work. And all of that work that we're doing is in our field. But sometimes it doesn't have the space to fully drop in. And this work, Pamela's work, allowed everything that I had been doing for a year to instantly drop in, so that it changed my reality in literally in an instant. And all of that work that I've been doing was present and allowed it, allowed me to create this, but your work allowed all of that to drop in to my physical reality and instantly lifted the veil, and was one of the most profound things that I've ever experienced. The other part is that, so you talked about how this is really accessing your ancestral lanes. So, I talk about this a lot in my classes and in my healing, how, different healing methods and modalities are clearing our ancestral lanes. But this is one of the most significant manifestations that I have seen of that. And that is that very quickly after you started doing, the first, second, and third sessions on me, I began to see a dramatic difference in my youngest daughter, who is in middle school, which is a difficult time of all, most people's lives. And she's a little angsty, and our relationship has been a little challenging. And her personality almost began to change back to the happy, sweet girl that she was when she was younger, that was still there, but middle school and this age can, brings with it a lot of challenges. And she had been working on manifesting something. I teach her all of these things, and she sometimes does them. She had been working on manifesting, really getting in on this friend group. That's a big deal in middle school. She was friends with a couple of them. She wanted to be in the group. And the deciding factor or whatever, I guess, when this friend group situation in middle school is if you're in the group chat on Instagram, you're in the friend group officially, and then you can sit with them at lunch, and it's this whole big thing that I'm so thankful that I don't have to navigate it myself through middle school. But very quickly after you started working on me, she started manifesting this. And, like within a couple of weeks, she comes to me and she's like, I'm in the...
So Alicia, I think you might have been, are you cut off?
Yeah, I disappeared for a second. Gosh, I'm manifesting a new computer right now. So that's perfect. I've been wanting one. So anyway, she was in the Instagram group chat. She's, solidly in this friend group. So that's a manifestation in her life. But really, she has improved in her mood and, just her being so much from you working on me. And sometimes it's hard to work on our kids because we can be blind. They can be a blind spot, especially for me. So I was so grateful that just by you doing work on me, I've seen very dramatic changes in her. And I know there's a couple of you guys that are on here live right now who can really resonate with that and are seeking that. So keep that in mind as you're listening to what we're talking about here. So you do, so one other thing I wanted to mention that you and I haven't talked.
Alicia, so I think you just went off again. I'm going to use this moment while Alicia's off to also elaborate on the fact that during the sessions, I'm really happy that Alicia talked about, shared with Maya, her daughter, because even when I'm working on a client and how it comes through, the healing is absolutely fast to me. It comes up as far as timelines go, but there's like a blending, right? There's a blending of time. So it seems very, very fast. The clearing is fast and absolute, and it's huge because everything's unraveled. So as I'm doing it right now, I work on people as 3 sessions, and in the first session, I incorporate etheric acupuncture, and the needles in etheric acupuncture get placed along the fetal formation lines, those acupuncture points that would open up those lines. In the second healing, the etheric acupuncture needles are placed. Alicia, I'm sharing the acupuncture right now.
Okay, perfect. I decided I can come on, now that we live streamed it, I can come on from my phone. So I'm not going to disappear again.
Okay. So I'm just talking about the sessions. In the second session, the needles are placed in the scalp. And for any of you who know acupuncture, it is proven and shown, and you can go on YouTube and see many videos where acupuncture is used to rehabilitate paraplegics, people who are post-stroke. But by placing the needles, it accesses your sensory and motor lines that go directly and affect your brain. Because I've been blessed with sort of having an image of the future of this modality, which is even bigger than it comes off, you know, through now, there's going to be more that integrates within the brain. So I've started to just put that right in right away. And so how the brain gets connected within the healing. And then there are activations that have come through that are, just so amazing in the third session. And, you know, I can tell you about those activations in a moment. So I think part of the reason that a lot of healings, they affect our lines going back because the crossover into our DNA. So once again, using sacred geometry from our formation, literally, the lines are opened up, they are unwound and cleared out, and then energies channeled in. And that's how it very quickly allows you to decide, am I going to expand? Am I going into higher dimensions? You can really choose it. You can hang out in the third dimension, but you can also expand. And of course, being more expanded, just life, you know, is a higher frequency. And as far as in my background, disease, illness, and anxiety, depression, really maybe lower frequency emotions, because this healing has come through to me very much as frequency of light and sound. And they don't exist in higher dimensions. So why not? You know, why not expand out into the higher dimensions? But were you about to say something before you clicked off? Because I was going to share a story about an epigeneticist, but
oh yes, I was, and it actually is related to the activations, I think, because you. So I was just in Florida at a retreat there, and I was invited to be a resident healer and hold space and set up, you know, energetically set up the space. And while I was there, so two things I wanted to share about that. While I was there, the day before the event started, you did a session with me remotely, and you ran these activations that have come in for you. And two things about those. So one of you talk about how this allows us to be so expanded. And I've really experienced that because my energy, I was able to really expand my energy to be able to hold space on a really high level for about 120 women in this retreat, and really set up the space of the room. And I know that you doing this for me the day before I went into that retreat was very much related in how much space I was able to hold. But the thing that we haven't talked about that I realized last night was that I cut my finger, as you know, a couple of weeks ago, almost cut the tip of my finger off. I had to get 20 stitches in the tip of my finger. And the night, so Wednesday night, you did this session for me on Wednesday. Wednesday night, my finger began to heal dramatically. And like, this is going to be kind of a little bit gross, but parts of my skin of my finger started peeling off, and it was almost as if it was peeling off the wound. And my finger is now, I mean, it's still healing, but you can't even tell that it was cut in parts of it.
Wow.
And I'm not sure if I can show. Anyway, I realized last night that when I was thinking about the client of yours that had the heart surgery, how I had actually had a physical healing as well. So, and that was after receiving the activations. So I just wanted to share that. So I've had a lot of amazing things happen in the span of just a couple of months that you've done these sessions for me. And it's, like I said, it's allowed so much of what I've done to drop in fully into my physical reality. So I just wanted to share that before you go into the story about the epigeneticist.
Yeah, Alicia, thank you for showing that. I love scars. I think there's like our life's giving us natural tattoos, and it shows that we've been brave warriors in life. So I adore scars, and your scars healing. It's actually quite beautiful. And I had a lot of downloads for you when that happened to you. So
yes, you did.
For sharing. So one of the challenges for me in this process is to give it words and to talk about it. And so this is why this day is sort of monumental to me, because even wanting to share in groups, when people say, share what you're working on. And it's been really, really so huge. I didn't have the words for it. So I've been literally practicing over the course of, it's been at least a year to put words on it. So I live in Princeton, New Jersey, and in this town are many scientists because of the university and the Center for Advanced Learning, that advanced studies, that are brilliant scientists, well accomplished, having done amazing things. And I think everyone knows Einstein, so he's one of probably the most famous scientist who was from Princeton. Anyway, so I have access to these people, like they're at my cafe, their kids go to school with my kids. And I've been practicing, and I've been shut down a few times. I've had an astrophysicist once say to me, like, well, when I'm practicing talking about, not sacred geometry, but just even energy and frequencies. So, you have to prove that, many people come up with great hypotheses, but, you can't prove that. So this has been a challenge, because I see this healing modality going out to, the energy workers, way showers, healers, the people with practices are easy. You're easy to talk to. But I see this as going through to people who maybe don't have any energy practice whatsoever. And certainly my patient base with acupuncture is very much that clientele. So to talk to them. So I was on the playground just Monday, and an epigeneticist who is now retired, almost retired, a lovely woman from Israel, happened to be at the playground at the Gaga pit with her grandchild. I was with my kids, and I decided to approach her and say hello, because I had talked to her last year at a science fair, and she was presenting epigenetics. And I was at that point in this modality, genetics was starting to really come in and anchor as to how the DNA would play out in this healing. And I said to her, hey, knowing I was going on with you today, when I see you later in the month at the science fair, I want to tell you about something that I'm working on that has to do with genetics and healing. And that distant look went into her eyes, and I thought, here I go, here it goes, and I'm going to be shut out. So I persevered, and I said to her, well, it has to do with unzipping our genetics, our DNA. And I caught her attention, and it has to do with the fact that all of our experiences, and even through our ancestral lines, especially the ones that have been charged with any emotion, whichever end of the frequency it comes through, gets stored in our genetics and literally passed on in generations. So it's not just, we're not the only ones dealing with it, we pass it along. So we're dealing with issues that we haven't even met the people who pass things on within our DNA.
Mhm.
And I said to her, it comes across to me through sacred geometry. And she paused and looked me right in the eyes. I'm like, yes, I have her attention. And I see it as through sacred geometry, an opening and transformation in sacred geometry where different shapes are formed and our grid lines. I said, I see us as grids, and our grid interacting with the Earth's grid and the universe's grid. And through this healing and the blending of grid lines going backwards and forwards in time creates an enormous healing, even within our DNA. But I'll tell you about it another time. And she said to me, she paused and she said, that's how I think about it too.
Mhm.
Yes, like to put it into words where people will listen, or it starts to land. It starts to root down for people. And she said, well, I'm really interested in hearing about your healing.
So, I love it.
Just to make it tangible, right?
I feel like this is going to transcend way more, like you said, it's going to go way beyond just the spiritual community and the people that are already doing this stuff, because there's so much actual science involved in what you're doing, and you have an understanding of it that's going to, like what just happened, that's going to catch the attention of the scientific community. And I really feel like this is a big step in changing the way that we work with energy, or the way that we understand how we work with energy, is what you're bringing through. So it's really exciting. So I just want to look at our notes here and make sure that we're not skipping over anything. So can we talk about what you're offering? So I said, in the event and in the post, I said, you guys will have an opportunity to learn how you can be one of the first people in the world to experience this for yourself. And so you have a really special offer, and it's very limited. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so in the offer, I'm looking for a specific number of people, and people who are established in their energy practice. And I'm doing this because I think I think maybe from talking about it, if you're getting a sense, the healing is huge. And I've worked on people who are don't have established energy practices, and I've worked on someone like you. And what I'm looking for are ways to anchor the energy and bring it in so people can really integrate it with a grace and an ease. Mm-hmm. And to figure out and recognize what's going on, because in the process of this, in the last session, it's going to be 3 sessions, and over the course of those 3 sessions, I'm going to pick people intuitively at first before opening it up at large. Right. Although I'm called, and I've heard this, that there's going to be someone who is really called to this, who maybe doesn't have an established practice. So if you are listening to this and you say, oh my goodness, you just know, because this has happened to me, you just know you're going to pursue something, please contact me as well, because I know there's going to be at least one person in this group who maybe isn't, doesn't think of themselves, but yet who's really drawn to it. And at the end sessions, certain activations come in. May I share the activations?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so that maybe people will have an idea. You mentioned one thing with your finger. One of the activations is called, it came through as Heal Thyself activation. So that's how I heard it. So I decided to keep it that way. And I firmly believe, and you might as well, that we really are our own healers.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And maybe we need someone to help us along the way or hold space for us, but really we heal ourselves. So this absolutely brings in your ability, because of, this is where the golden ratio comes in the sacred geometry. And there's a really specific connection between the brain and the heart and the dimensions that happen when I'm working on someone, where this anchored in as if you reach that balance point. You said the lifting of the veil, but it's almost that non-duality point. So there's a point in the healing. We are, just by being born, you're either male or female. So right away there's duality. Otherwise we would just be our energy selves out, in the universe. So we are in duality experience, but there's a blending at one point in the healing where your capacity to heal yourself anchors in. Mm-hmm. So there's a specific activation that came in for that. There is a creator consciousness activation that has come through, where you become aware of yourself, of the creator of your experiences. You've heard of that, right? You create everything you've experienced, but this has happened so fast. This is one of my favorites, because this is I've been having so much fun playing with this one of really sort of waking up each day and saying, what am I going to experience today? And that's an activation that has come through. And another activation that has come through is the crystalline creator activation, and that has to do with an awareness. What downloaded in is an activation for your awareness of your capacity to go into different dimensions, mm-hmm. and even your own interaction with the Earth's grid, Gaia, because it's sort of like the fifth dimensional energy of Earth, your interaction with that energy and the universal energy, and to start to play with that. So you experience yourself, once your sacred geometrical shapes are cleaned out and expanded, you get to play with yourself in that capacity of creator, like creating your life. And then how your dimension and fields start to interact and play with other people. Can I show you just one more toy?
Yes.
Okay. This is another toy.
I love these toys. They're such good visuals.
Yeah. So, okay. This is another toy. And my son had this. This is my son's toy. Have you seen these? Anyone who has had kids, you might have seen this. This is a toy. And my son was playing with this, and it was already part of the healing. But all of a sudden they're playing with things, and I'm seeing the shapes in absolutely everything. Just like when I told you I went to like Salvador Dali used the golden ratio and his warped clocks and his art. So I'm seeing it absolutely everywhere in life. So this is my son playing. We get back from Spain, and my son's playing with this. And I said, wait a minute. What are you doing? And he's like, wow. But this is one of the shapes. And when it opens out and forms other shapes, including certain stars, and the dodecahedron forms. And this one has to do with what activates in the heart activation, where there's a something very special, as if we are have seeds or pods of light within us that get activated during these activations. And once they're activated, they go within the formation of the sacred geometry. And then the light is brought in, and it really anchors in, so that you can experience these things really easily and quickly in your life. But that's why in the offer at this point, I'm asking for people with a practice, so that you even recognize
right,
what it is. Because you had something kind of amazing. I don't know if you want to share it or not. That came through very specifically. So when I know someone and I know what the person, sometimes even more downloads in.
Right.
I don't know, do you want to share that?
Yes. So you shared with me that on Wednesday, an image, a visual that came through really clearly for you was the Michelangelo drawing of the man. And you thought, why am I seeing this? It's not a normal thing for you to see in a healing session. And I was kind of blown away by that. And it was very, very, very significant to me personally, because last May I had something drop in and download, and I saw that exact image very clearly. And I was shown basically the geometry that's used in that drawing, how to move through time and space, and rotate to go to different places and different times. And so it was a really strong, and I received that download, and then my life got really busy, and I haven't actually done anything much with that, with what I received last May, almost a year ago now. So that was a really strong reminder to me to revisit that and go back to that and bring forward what came through for me, and it's been percolating for the last year. So that was a significant reminder, and I feel like also what came through with that for me was some kind of an activation, to activate that within me again.
Yeah, that was really specific to you. And I knew it wasn't part of the healing modality because once again, Da Vinci was tuned into sacred geometry and his brilliance. But that healing, I don't normally work with that shape. But you
Right.
do that shape.
Yeah.
Shape, and you were spinning in that shape.
Right.
So truly, even personal activations come through for clients, and this is what's part of the gift of even holding space, working with someone, is because I get to witness this. And
people that are already doing this stuff, because there's so much.
Was that something?
Yeah, I clicked on our video to comment, to reply to somebody's comment, and it started playing. Sorry, everyone.
So in this offer, please, if you're drawn to this, it's 3 sessions that to do that. I'd be working at this point. It's 3 sessions, and very specifically, something's happening in the 3 sessions. I'm giving it 2 weeks, although depending upon how you're integrating with the energy, I possibly up to a month. So I'd like to, if you're interested, please comment below or message me and send me your interest, and maybe we can have a conversation, or I'll be choosing people intuitively. And once people are chosen and I begin the work, there probably there will be 3 question forms to fill out at the beginning, during the time, and at the very end. One giving me feedback, and possibly using that feedback to help integrate and land it for other people who are not necessarily don't have an energy practice. But in addition to that, to help you even track or recognize what's going on. So I will absolutely let you know when I'm working on you. And that's what you and I did, Alicia. And I've done that with all of my clients. And for people who are in my town, I actually have worked on people live. And that's quite amazing as well. So this is done remotely, but I'll be in communication with you. If you happen to live near Princeton, New Jersey, and want to come and experience a session live, I would do that as well. So I work, mostly on clients. I work a lot of live sessions with acupuncture, of course. So, but I can do this work live.
Right.
Have I missed anything, or is there?
I think that was covering the logistics of the session. So it's 3 remote sessions that you'll receive over a period of about 2 weeks, unless the energy feels like it needs to slow down when you're doing it. There'll be questionnaires. You'll be checking in. You'll be telling people when you worked on them, so that they know and that they can rest and drink extra water. There's a lot of people who are commenting that they're interested. So again, it's 9 spots, right? And you're going to be choosing people intuitively. And we didn't show the investment, so it's only $333 for all 3 sessions.
For the 3 sessions. And this truly is the only time it's going to be offered at this rate. And I think that's, it's $333 at this point.
Yeah. And truly, this is an under exaggeration. If anything, this is very quickly going to go to at least 10 times that price. And I'm not, this is, if anything, I'm underestimating that because it's incredibly powerful. So, comment if you're interested, because Pamela's going to be choosing 9 people intuitively. And just quickly, what you mean by having an established energy practice. That's just somebody who's working with themselves, working with their own energy, meditating, that type of thing, right?
Yes, and on a regular basis. I mean, I've met people and their energy practice is to be out in nature every day,
Right.
but they do it on a regular basis. And here's why. There's a piece of this energy's huge. It's really big energy. And so it's so that you already have a capacity of anchoring the energy and expanding the energy. So I myself am, as I've just, as I've said, I'm working on bringing words and descriptions to the experience without falling into language that everyone uses to convey what's going on. But in addition to that, so just something that you're doing regularly where you feel like you are anchoring yourself in and also accessing, expanding yourself out. And it could be any way that you do that. I also love the idea if someone has a journaling practice because you'll recognize what's coming through. So for my patients currently who I've worked on in the early stages, I've asked them to journal just so that they can even recognize what's happening. In the early stages, if I could recognize what was coming through, like even to me, going back to my biophysics class or that life progression, I didn't recognize what it was. I had no reference point for this. And then it came rushing in. But that's why I'm asking for people. That's what I mean by someone with a practice.
Good. Thank you. Yeah. And that journaling, I really strongly agree with that. And I encourage my clients to do that as well, because it brings in awareness. And sometimes the awareness is needed for that to fully drop in. So, and then also that's going to be really helpful for you too, if they're journaling and you can really get, feedback on exactly what they're experiencing.
Yeah, it's been so easy working on you. And so even like a client who's healed quickly, which is super fun for someone who has a real the physical ailment or illness. But it's been so amazing to me during this process to have your feedback where you recognize the energy and you can tell me what's happening for you, because it's taken a while for me to anchor this in and bring it in. There's one thing that came in where I went into that final time to work on you, and may I share? It's
Yes.
like a big breath. Can I?
Oh, yes, this was exciting. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the last thing, and as soon as there were several times where I thought like, okay, I'm done, done, and then something else would come in, and integrate, done, something other piece would come in. So we're done right now. Here we are. But this piece where I wanted to go back in and work on you the last time was a huge breath. So when someone's opened up and they're opened up and the eye is formed to their creation in life, and then they go back into this expanded shape of which I sense our grids and interdimensional energy within the universe. It's very quantum. A breath came in, an enormous breath comes in and anchors in. And I love this piece because it goes back to the roots of the fetus in the biophysics class, where when the fetus is born and ready to emerge, they have to take the breath. They have to breathe. And then, it happens. So that happened with this modality where after, the person's, all the lines are reformulated and put back together and the DNA gets zipped up and the sacred geometry, and then a huge breath comes through.
Mhm.
And that was a piece that came through for you. So that's sort of like the final gifting of the modality.
I love it. And that breath that I feel like it's really significant because it's kind of like you said that when a baby's born and that fetus, is born and they take their first breath, it's like breathe, that first breath into this whole new reality, right? Because it's been born into. And that's the same kind of thing with this. It's like the first breath into our whole new reality of what we have available to and access to after receiving this. So it's pretty amazing. And I'm so honored to be able to, share this with all of you guys and share what Pamela has brought through. You're going to be choosing intuitively the people like probably Saturday morning. So we're kind of giving this till the end of the day, Friday, for you guys to comment or message Pamela. Pamela's going to be making a post also in the group with kind of the written out details because this is so involved, so that you guys can actually, some people like to read something and get the information that way. So you can look for the post probably in just a few minutes. And then anything else that you want to say? And I'll look at there's a lot of comments. I haven't seen a lot of questions come through. I can only see 4 comments at a time right now because I'm looking on my computer, but we'll be coming back and looking. There's a lot of comments, so we'll come back and look at Pamela can't see those. And if you do have any questions, please, ask them underneath this video because a lot of people will be watching the replay as well.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so very much. I'm thrilled. Thank you, Alicia, and to all of you for listening today.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Pamela. And have a good day, everyone.
Have a great day. Happy May. Happy May 1st.
Yes. Happy Beltane. All right. Bye for now.